If you look at the political map of Canada right now, you're going to see two things. First, you're going to find some blue conservative ridings, loud, energized, packed with Pierre Poilievre diehards who would follow him through hell and high water. And then move out across the country, and you're going to find something different. The quiet majority of Canadians that keep choosing Mark Carney and rejecting Pierre Poilievre over and over again. Now, on paper, the Conservative Party should be surging. Canada's economy is struggling. Prices are high. Voters are fed up. By every rule of politics, this should be an opportunity for opposition parties to exploit. But after more than 10 years in power, the Liberals should be in free fall, but they aren't. And Mark Carney should be struggling, but he's thriving. Carney's Liberals are ahead, and Poilievre's Conservatives are stuck. And the gap between them isn't closing, it's widening. Why? Because Pierre Poilievre has achieved something that's almost impossible in politics. He has made himself more off-putting than a four-term government. We've all seen the polls. Several new ones came out just this past week, and they all confirm the same thing. For voting intentions, the Liberals are in the low to mid-40s, and Conservatives are in the high 30s. Now that's a modest gap, sometimes 4 to 8 points. Now that gap is not huge, but it's consistently growing. Now, look at people's impressions of party leaders. Carney is sitting above 50% positive, while Pierre is buried in negative. When people are asked their preferred prime minister, Carney is over 50%. Poilievre is barely in the mid-20s. People who don't even like the Liberals prefer Carney, saying that he's a serious person and a strong leader. So in the next 15 minutes, I'm going to show you the receipts of failure. I'm going to show you why Pierre Poilievre isn't just unpopular, but why he's a liability. And I'm going to show you why Mark Carney isn't breaking a sweat, because he knows that his biggest campaign asset isn't his party or his own platform. It's the man sitting right across from him in the House of Commons. Receipt number 1, the echo chamber trap. Let's talk about what I like to call the rock star myth. If you ever go to a Poilievre rally, it's loud, it's angry, it feels like a movement. But that's the trap. Pierre Poilievre has spent his entire leadership talking to a mirror. He's optimized his brand for the 35% of the country that already hates the Liberals. He's the king of the echo chamber. But for an election campaign, the echo chamber is a prison. Inside Poilievre's Conservative base, he's a rock star, the chosen one. Party members just gave him sky-high support in a leadership review. Conservative voters, the ones who show up at conventions and volunteer, overwhelmingly want him to stay. But step outside that bubble, and the picture changes dramatically. When Canadians are asked at large, do you have a favorable view of Pierre Poilievre, the numbers are brutal. Pollsters at Angus Reid, Abacus, Nanos, Leger, 338, they all keep finding the same thing. Poilievre negatives are sky high and stubborn. His that favorability isn't just slightly underwater, it's deep in the red. He's built a base that's a mile deep and an inch wide. He's winning over the angry uncle demographic by 90 points. But he's losing all the people who actually decide elections by a landslide. Among women, he's toxic. Among young voters, he's underwater and losing more support fast. In big cities and suburbs, the places that you need to win a modern election, he consistently trails Carney by double digits. He is not building a coalition. He's building a cult of personality that stops at the edge of the city. Conservatives like to say that the media is out to get him, but markets don't shift because of vibes, and neither do polling averages. When you aggregate over a year of data, remove all the noise, and look at the real trend line, you'll see that one thing is crystal clear. Canadians know who Pierre Poilievre is, and they don't like what they see. Receipt number 2, smirk factor. So why? What is it about Poilievre that doesn't land well with voters? Look at his methods and his algorithm. Poilievre's entire political style is built on confrontation. He interrupts. He attacks. He sneers. He brands. He is permanently in campaign mode, always auditioning for the next viral video clip. That may work on social media. It fires up people, but only people who already agree with him. It travels well inside Facebook groups and partisan channels like gasoline. But here's the problem. Most voters don't live in computer feeds. The average Canadian voter is not scrolling for rage. They're too busy trying to pay their mortgage, find daycare, and just keeping their head above water. And most don't really think about politics until maybe the last week or two of a campaign. And when they do tune in, what they see is a man who looks and sounds permanently angry. They don't hear fighter. They hear risk. Mark Carney, by contrast, has built the exact opposite brand. Where Poilievre raises his voice, Carney lowers his. Where Poilievre throws blame, Carney talks about balance sheets and trade-offs. Where Poilievre performs outrage, Carney projects control. You can see the contrast in a single question. Who do you want as prime minister? When the polls ask that question directly, it's not even close. Carney isn't just ahead, he's more than double Poilievre's support. Over half the country picks Carney, while barely a quarter pick Poilievre. Many of the rest just shrug or choose someone else. That's not about ideology. That's about trust. In a world that feels so unstable, with wars, inflation, climate shock, and Donald Trump, voters don't just want someone who shares their anger. They want someone who can manage it. Poilievre speaks to their frustrations, but Carney speaks to their concerns. And in a crisis, concerns beat anger every single time. Receipt number 3, the coalition trap. Here's the most important piece. This is the one that conservative strategists don't like to talk about. In a multi-party democracy, you don't win by maximizing your own base. You win by building a coalition that expands and stretches beyond it. Carney understands this. Look at where his numbers are coming from. He's strong with core liberals. But he's also tolerable, even liked by many NDP voters. He's acceptable to some Bloc voters in Quebec. He doesn't terrify moderate suburban conservatives who might look for economic competence. That's how you get a liberal vote share only in the low 40s, but a preferred PM number that's well over 50%. It's not ideology, it's permission. Carney has permission to lead from people, many of whom may never take a liberal membership card in their life. Poilievre doesn't have permission. He's built a coalition that's really deep but not wide. Conservative voters, they're all with him. Everyone else, at best, they're skeptical. At worst, they're allergic to him. That's why you see this weird split. National vote, conservatives hovering around 38 to 40%, sometimes close, sometimes slightly behind. But under leadership impressions, Poilievre with a net negative in double digits, trailing Carney badly. For preferred PM, Carney is way out in front. Poilievre's stuck in the 20s. In plain English, the Conservative Party is some people's option. Pierre Poilievre is not. He's the ceiling on his own party's success. Think about the nature of unpopularity. What makes it so hard to fix? Part of it is pure psychology. Once a leader is defined, and Poilievre has been in the public eye for years, impressions harden. People are not blank slates. They have seen him in question period, in clips, in leadership races. They remember the smirk, the jabs, the slogans. They've seen him try to change his look, his style, and his manner many times, but he always comes back looking the same. When you ask people, how do you feel about this person? They're not answering for today. They're answering for what they've seen in the last 5 years. Poilievre's core problem is that his brand and his strategy are the same thing. He wins attention by being combative. He holds his base by being combative. But the very thing that secures his base is the same thing that repels the middle. Carney is the opposite. His brand is competence. His strategy is to demonstrate quiet control. The longer he governs, the more that brand may hold or erode, but it doesn't scare people. That's why, even in difficult moments, Carney's numbers may dip and then rebound. Pollsters call that the honeymoon effect. But in reality, it's a simple test of Canadians. When things get messy, do you still trust this person at the wheel? Right now, for a narrow but very stable majority of Canadians, the answer for Carney is yes. And for Poilievre, for most Canadians, the answer is always no. This is where the asymmetry comes in. Poilievre thinks he's fighting a culture war. Carney is playing a credibility war. Poilievre is trying to mobilize anger. Carney is trying to harvest trust. One talks like a YouTube shock jock. The other talks like the guy who the G7 calls when the bond market is on fire and collapsing. And when you put those two men side by side and ask the most basic question in a democracy, who do you want signing the checks and answering the phone at 3 a.m., the result is not even close. And that's what the numbers are screaming. Not just that the Liberals are ahead, but that Carney is an asset, Poilievre is a liability. So where does this all go? From here, Conservatives can sketch three different paths. Scenario one, the soft landing. Conservatives can keep supporting Poilievre, accepting his ceiling, and just hope that Carney stumbles. They can try to grind their way to power on economic frustration, betting that in the end voters will hold their nose long enough to vote blue. It's possible that could happen, but they are running against both math and mood. The next scenario is the hard pivot. At some point, Conservative MPs and donors might decide that being close in the polls while constantly losing the preferred leader race, 2-1 or more, is not sustainable. So a leadership review could become a real referendum, not just a coronation. They might choose someone less polarizing, and Poilievre could become a cautionary tale about mistaking clicks for votes. Then you come to the final scenario, which is a Carney majority. Carney could keep his coalition together just long enough. The unpopularity of his opponents, more so than the popularity of his own party or policies, could deliver him another mandate. And history could remember the 2020s not as the Poilievre alignment, but as the decade when Canada flirted with hard right populism and pulled away. Right now, looking at the polls, the trend lines, the fundamentals of political psychology, the last scenario is the one that the numbers are quietly drawing. But politics has a way of surprising us all, especially when one of the main characters has built his entire career on blowing up expectations. Now it's your turn. What do you think? Is Pierre Poilievre the victim of an unfair media caricature? Or is his unpopularity the natural consequence of the way he has chosen to do politics? And more importantly, if you were a conservative strategist staring at those unfavorable charts, would you double down on Poilievre or start looking for the off-ramp? Let me know in the comments. And if you want to understand better how this matchup between Carney and Poilievre shapes your taxes, your services, and your future, make sure to subscribe to this channel and hit the bell. Because this isn't just a polling story. It's the story about whether Canada leans into anger or sticks with competence. I'm watching for you, and I'll see you next time. Thank you. Thanks for watching this video. This channel is Beyond America, Canada Looking South. Here are a few other videos you might be interested in. And remember, stay engaged, stay active, stay informed, and always keep up the fight.